And welcome to Wager Talk, everybody. Ralph Michaels, Brian Leonard, I'm Scott Spreitzer, talking a little Sunday NFL, and the Oakland Raiders travel to Tampa Bay to take on the Buccaneers, and the Bucs about a 1.5 point favorite, depending on where you shop. The total sitting at 49. And guys, I'm going to kick things off debunking the myth that has been perpetrated all over the betting world for the past 25 years. And those of you who know me have heard this before, but I'm going to say it again anyway, because I hear people talking about it and putting it in print. First of all, West Coast teams on the East Coast, don't bet on the East Coast team just because the West Coast team is traveling to the East Coast no matter what time of day it is. 50-50 proposition. Our friend Big Al and his 30-year database, we checked it out a couple of years ago, and over 30 years, that was 50-50 as far as the spread was concerned. The West Coast team had even won a few more games outright out of about 500 games. Then we went in and we checked out to see how West Coast teams fared on the East Coast if they were doing it for the second straight week. Didn't matter whether they stayed home or stayed on the East Coast or flew home after the first game and then came back to the East Coast the next time out. You're going to find this pretty amazing, but the West Coast team playing on the East Coast in that second straight week, 65 to 68% cover. The West Coast team, and it had happened about, 56 to 60 times over about a 30-year period, so it doesn't happen a lot. Interesting thing about this one, this is the second time this season that Oakland has had to do that. They did that earlier this year, and they won and covered at Baltimore this second week. So guys, that's the setup. The myth has been debunked again, and hopefully people will realize it enough that it does sound logical, but you got to do your homework because they don't always come to fruition when you're thinking about some of these myths. So guys, if you like the East Coast team this week, Tampa Bay over Oakland, do it for other reasons than that. Let's kick off the analysis. We'll start with you, Brian Leonard.
Yeah, I just want to touch on what you said. It's even better, I believe, don't quote me, I don't have the stats in front of me, when the team going from the West Coast to the East does not cover the first game. Mm-hmm. They're just really money in the bank that second game, at least from when I've done my research on it. And I'm not a real big fan of Oakland because that was one of the teams that beat me last week. And I watch Oakland play, and I don't know why they're winning. They make so many bad decisions. It's the penalties kill them every time, just like it did when Al Davis was the owner.
Sure.
It's just the mentality there. And what did we learn from Tampa? Well, we learned that San Francisco's still not very good. Yeah. I don't know if we heard enough from Tampa to back them here, but I don't want to play the Raiders because I just don't think they're that good of a team.
Yeah, I mean, if you're not going to play them, you're doing it for the right reasons, obviously. And the defense also, Ralph, has been a disaster for the Oakland Raiders. I don't know, this 5-2 start, man, they've played just two teams who currently own winning records, the Falcons and the Chiefs. They lost both of those games. They lost them both at home, by the way. So when they've matched up against teams that are currently below 500, they're a perfect 5-0, but they're 0-2 against those winning teams. Now, the Buccaneers are not the greatest. As you mentioned, they fattened up, bullied San Francisco. That was a matter of Jacquizz Rodgers being able to run like crazy through the daylight openings of the San Francisco defense. But here's the kicker. Guess what? Oakland can't play any defense against the run either. Your thoughts?
Rodgers back-to-back 100-yard games, so it really helps the Tampa Bay offense. Now, a couple unique points to this game. Tampa actually traveled much more than Oakland. Tampa went to Carolina 2 weeks ago, went to San Francisco. Meanwhile, Oakland stayed in Florida. Mm-hmm. They're practicing at the IMG Academies in Bradenton. That may be an upgrade for their facilities.
Exactly.
And so, they stayed in Cleveland. Del Rio's going to watch his son play in Florida. So, a big deal for Oakland to stay there. They took their wives, they took their family pretty loose. Couple situations to play against Oakland. They've been outgained in all 7 games this year. They're 5-2, but they're minus 61 yards per game. On the flip side, Tampa Bay at 3-3, plus 15 yards per game. So if you're looking at the stats, like you said, Brian, why are they winning? Well, a lot of that's due to their competition. One more point I want to make is that the visitor has covered the last 13 Raiders games. And again, an interesting point to say, well, the Raiders are doing well on the road. They've been a better road team. They're poor at home as a home favorite. 13 straight covers for the visitor in the Raiders games.
I wish you had told me that last week.
There you go.
12's not significant, but 13 is.
Yeah, there you go. It's the baker's dozen that gets you every time.
Right, that's right.
I got to ask you real quickly, either one of you guys can answer this, and then we'll wrap things up. But the on-field relationship between Dirk Cutter and Jameis Winston. Jameis Winston, I remember last year, opening game of his NFL career, going up against Marcus Mariota, also opening up his career last year in the NFL against each other. And I'm watching this, and I'm going, boy, did Tennessee make out. Winston's terrible. Couldn't read a defense. Looked like Geno Smith trying to read a pre-snap defense. And then he goes on to have a pretty darn good year. But it doesn't seem, unless Jacquizz Rodgers is running well, that Jameis Winston is really making any improvements, guys.
Well, he had a lot more playmakers in college than he has in the pro, and I think that's what it is. He's got to do too much in the NFL, but he's a good quarterback. I think he'll have a nice career.
You know, I am a Winston fan. It's going to take him a while. I think he overachieved the first year. If you looked at his numbers this year, you'd say he was okay if you threw out last year's stats. Yeah. So again, by overachieving one year, it makes him look like as if he's underachieving. But I think most people in their second year would take even what he's doing this season.
Anybody in a sentence or less like this game of the two of you?
You know, I'm passing on this game. Dynamics on both sides. And again, you know, the Raiders seem to stay in games. The way they're playing with Rodgers rushing back-to-back games, I would lean with the over.
When I watch the games and when I look at the stats, I like Tampa. But Oakland's one of those teams that we find this every year. You find a team that just outperforms their stats. Yep. Maybe that's the Raiders.
Yeah. I have an opinion, by the way, on the over also, so we'll call that the play on the videos. We'll take over 49 is where it is now. We're at the Raiders and the Buccaneers this week. Hey, before we let you go, don't forget $2 Tuesdays. You get a best bet each and every week from one of the WagerTalk.com guys for only $2. More to come. Stick around. Watch the videos, all weekend long, right here at WagerTalk.com.